Hi, welcome to Brady's Blunders, where I show you the mistakes in my games, hoping you don't make the same ones in yours. And today's video is kind of fun for me for a couple reasons. First, in the next 12 moves, my opponent and I managed to make a mistake on almost every single move, which is kind of funny when you think about it. So that'll be fun to show. But then second, I actually violated two really good principles for my mistakes, and I did it knowing the principles, and I did it consciously. I chose to ignore the principles, and I was wrong both times. So let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, this is exactly where the last video ended off. And white has Sente and the ability to severely attack these stones, so the game is good for white. And I showed that probably white's best way to attack is a sequence something like this, in which he gets to transfer the power that he had from the left side to the top, and the game is pretty good. But happily, white didn't do that, and instead white did this. Now this follows another well-known idea, which is drive your opponent towards your wall. And so it's not as good as the variation that I showed, but at least it makes sense and is doing something, and again begins to develop the top. Now I didn't like the idea that if I played here, I'm encouraging him to play Hanning on top of me. I just didn't want to force him to make a good move. So I decided to play over here, which isn't good. I should probably go ahead and do that move I didn't want to do and just start to build shape. But if I want to come out like this, a better shape for me is right here. This is a little too close to the thickness and makes the cutting points pretty obvious. As a matter of fact, the reason I didn't want to, extend up is I didn't want to give him an annoying forcing move, right? Well, how's this for an annoying forcing move? This is actually difficult to answer. I mean, it threatens a follow-up peep at A and makes black really uncomfortable, and it works well towards the outside. So if white played this, I'd really favor white in this game. However, white decided to play this way and cap my stones. And so now he's trying to do two different things with the attack, making it not that effective, right? So with one of his moves, he's forcing me towards his wall, and then with another one of his moves, he's capping. So he's trying to do two things at once, which is hard to do. And normally my next move / mistake I would ask a question about, but there's enough material in the next few moves that I'm just going to show you what I should have played, and that's right here. This is the proper shape move right now, which does two things. Number one, maybe even three things. It begins to build the boxy shape that's going to give me eye space. Number two, it moves out. And number three, it doesn't give white any obvious and useful forcing moves, right? And so this would be better than what I played. And I played right here. Now what's funny about this is still going to be forcing and useful for white, right? So this whole idea of jumping out to prevent this move doesn't even make sense. Okay. Again, happily white didn't play that. And I think he decided at this moment that he doesn't have a real effective attack on these stones, so he went ahead and tanuki. And this is an interesting point in the game, and actually it was one that came up as a subject for a lot of conversation and debate, at the pub that night over a beer, because I didn't play quickly. And what I did instead is I looked at this part of the board, and then I came over here and looked at this part of the board, and then I looked over here, and then I looked over here again. And then I played the simple answer like this. And this is where we get into the debate that night and the conversation. And the question is this: do you follow your opponent's eyes when you play a face-to-face game? And I was on the side that said, no, I don't do that. All the information you need is on the board. You don't need to follow your opponent's eyes. And the real reason I don't do it is because I don't play face-to-face games, right? I play 99% of my games online, so you can't follow your opponent's eye movements. happens. And I was told, well, Brady, then you're missing out, right? Because your opponent will give you clues. So, follow their eyes and figure out what they're thinking about. So what's funny is I'm pretty sure this is what happened right now is my opponent followed my eyes and reacted accordingly. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you his move, and the question is, can we figure out why he played it? And even more importantly, was his move needed or correct? Okay? And that is, after I played this move, White played here. So again, I'm going to ask multiple questions in this video. This first one I'm going to suggest go ahead and pause if you like to give it some thought, but feel free to pause for all the questions. And so the question is right now, why did White play this move? What was he thinking of? And second, is it good? Okay. All right. I think what my opponent was worried about was this cut right here. And I just set up a ladder breaker with this move. So when he watched my eyes over here and watched my eyes over here, this is what he was looking at. And okay, I think that's a legitimate concern. The question is the ladder good? And it's not. It's sort of a trick question because it's actually not a ladder. It's a cool net. And if White starts to chase Black in this ladder and Black's thinking, ha, I've got somewhere to run to, then White can end it all with this move here. Black can't push out either direction because he's going to get captured directly, so needs to try to capture the stone and run away, but White just says, no, go ahead and capture that stone, I don't mind, because I'm still going to Atari you. Connect, yeah, you've got nowhere to run, I can capture you. So it's a cool net. I think my opponent didn't see it, and therefore he defended, and this defense was not necessary, so it's a bad move. It's better than a pass, but it's really kind of a late mid-game, early end-game looking play. So in effect, the advantage that he had, he just ceded to me. But don't worry, because I go ahead and give it back. All right. So now the next question is, where should Black play? Well, no, I'm going to qualify that a little bit. And the reality is, I could probably Tanuki as Black. I've got room to live and I've got room to get out, and I can probably get away with playing somewhere else and then making do with this black group. But it might get uncomfortable, and I don't like getting uncomfortable in the opening. So let's presume for a moment that I was correct in continuing to play locally. So if Black wants to play locally, where should Black play next? Okay. This is a case where I violated a principle that I knew beforehand, and I had what I thought was good reason, but my reason was terrible. And I went ahead and played here. And the reason I did it is I thought White had awkward shape with these two stones, and I wanted to continue to make his shape awkward. And figuring that if he plays a variation like this, then number one, I'm safe, and number two, I've got all kinds of peeps, and there's still Aji in the corner. So I figured this would be pretty good for me. He had these two weird-looking moves, but of course that's completely wrong. It's and it's the wrong way of thinking about it. And by far better move is to come out this way. And again, when you're out in the center, you tend to be pretty safe, and it's building boxy, eye-like shape. But the other thing is, look at these two stones. Don't they look even more awkward now that I haven't helped them connect to their friend in the corner? And furthermore, isn't the Aji for me much better in the corner if I don't go ahead and solidify him first? Does that make sense? I mean, it's in hindsight, it's really, really obvious why this is the better move. And Eric Louis, who's I think the most recent American pro, said, his response is only play this move as sort of a desperate last resort. And it's not that this move is necessarily bad, but because this move helps White on the outside, On the other side, it can be a thank you move. It can be a move that white really wants to play. So play this as a last resort. First, come out. Okay. If I don't play this, I can later on. I can attack these stones. I can take the corner. There's all kinds of possibilities. White should probably go ahead and say thank you, right? If I played a thank you move, he should say thank you, connect his stones to his friend, and really start taking the corner. But he didn't. Instead, white played here. So then this is the next problem. If you were black, where would you play next? Okay. When I looked at it, I'm like, well, why did white play here instead of here? And then I realized, oh, it's because with one move, white can enclose me, right? So if I go ahead and play somewhere else, then white gets this. And now white's going to get all the forcing moves, and I'm going to live with 2 points with this group, and that's just not acceptable. Don't get enclosed. So my answer was to jump out. But this is too slow, and I'll try to explain why. Number one, in the opening, you're fighting for Sente, or you should be fighting for Sente, because if you can be the next one to play in a big area, that's a big advantage. And so with this move, I'm accepting Gote. And so the question is, if I do play somewhere else and white plays here, is that a terrible, terrible thing? Well, if my group could be killed, it would be a terrible, terrible thing. But it can't. One advantage of this bad sequence that I played is that it effectively gives me enough space to live, and I don't have anything to be afraid of. Is it annoying that white's controlling the outside? Yes. Is it terrible? No. Not if I get to play the first move somewhere else. All right. Another way of looking at it, and the principle that I violated, came from Yailin Yang, and he's a 7-dan professional. He's a Chinese professional who lives in California, and he's in a situation like this where you're invading. He says there's 2 approaches you can do when the opponent attacks your invading stone. You can either live inside, along the 2nd and 3rd line, or you can jump out. Whatever you do, don't do both. Right? Choose. Live or go out. And what I did with this move is I did both, right? With this move, I said I'm going to live, which made him stronger. And then with this move, I came out. So I violated that real old principle. Do one or the other. Don't do both. It's just not efficient. Okay, so what are the takeaways from this video? All right, my opponent's attack wasn't that efficient, but hell, we all do that, and that's fine. The takeaways for black are twofold. One of which is save this move for desperate times, because this move strengthens your opponent and can in effect be a thank you move. The second is when you're invading, choose your course. Either live along the side or get out. Don't do both. It's inefficient. And at the end of the last video, I said, hey, what do you guys think of the cliffhangers? And for the most part, people were like, hey, that's fun, give it a shot. So I will. And white's next move was here. So then today's question is, where should black play next? I'll let you know in the next video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.